What did our Messiah mean when he said in Matthew chapter 19, verse 21, if you want to be perfect, how do we be perfect? And when he said also in Matthew chapter 6, verse 20, store up treasures in heaven, what did he mean by treasures? Let's look at that together. Shalom, my friends. Dan asked me to do an Otiot study on treasures from Matthew 6:20, where we read, lay up for yourselves treasures in the Ahmein, that's heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. How do we lay up treasures for ourselves in the Ahmein? We're going to look at that. And Dan also asked me about the word perfect in Matthew chapter 19, verses 20 and 21. We read, the young man said to him, all these I have watched over from my youth. What do I still lack? And in verse 21, Yeshua said to him, if you want to be perfect, go, sell what you have, and give to the poor, and you shall have treasure in the Ahmein. Come, follow me. So he's explaining it there. How do we have treasures in the Ahmein? And Yeshua says, sell what you have, give to the poor, and you shall have treasure in the Ahmein. Well, what exactly is he talking about? It's possible to sell everything you have and give to the poor. Not an easy thing to do, but that would give you treasures in eternity. So, first, let's take a look at the word for treasures. And that would be otsar. Strong's H214. And in the Greek, it would be G2344. The word there is thesaurus. It means the same thing if you look at the dictionaries, and you know how I feel about that. Dictionaries are full of Western mindset, abstract concepts, but the Aramaic Hebrew otsar, as well as the Greek thesaurus, means storehouse. But, Yeshua says you will have a storehouse in the Ahmein. Okay, naturally the storehouse would be full of treasures. But when we look at the Otiot, we get an idea that is much greater about what these treasures are really all about. Otsar, Aleph, Tzad, Resh. Aleph and Tzad. You have Ots, Tzad, and Resh would be Tsar, Otsar. Aleph, picture of the ox head, has to do with being yoked to Abba Father, and it has to do with being taught by Abba Father. Then we have Tzad, picture of a path. It represents the way. It also represents righteousness. When I say the way, I'm talking about the narrow path that leads to righteousness, as opposed to the broad path that so many are on that leads to destruction. The narrow path, tzad, that leads to righteousness is few are on it. Few who find it. Matthew chapter 7 verse 13. Enter in through the narrow gate, because the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter in through it. And then verse 14, because the gate is narrow and the way is hard pressed, which leads to chai, life, and there are few who find it. Few who find it. I mean, that tells you right there that it's something that you have to seek. You have to look for it. You have to search for it. Then we have resh, picture of a man's head. It has to do with who your headship is and therefore what your thoughts are on. So these treasures, they're not what we would think. You know, what's going to be in my storehouse? Diamonds and rubies and, I don't know, flat screen TVs and a couple of nice cars, a Rolls Royce and, Maserati. Those are not treasures in eternity. The treasures here are Aleph, being yoked to Abba Father and being taught by Him. My friends, I can tell you from personal experience of actually seeing the Father teaching me something. Honestly, I can't describe it. Those of you who have my book, The Road to Paradise, How to Find the Way, I talk about many things in there that they're just astounding, and they're more precious than gold or silver or rubies or Maseratis. Being yoked to the Father is being guided by Him, and to be taught by Him, it's such a precious, wonderful experience. Tzad, finding that narrow path and knowing that you're on it, seeing righteousness, Yeshua, flowering in you, coming out of you in fruitfulness of your own experience, your soul, your living experience, precious beyond words. And resh, knowing that Elohim is your headship, and finding yourself in a place, finally, where your thoughts are so fully engrossed and focused on Elohim. You start seeing everything in a different way. Now, these things, they're treasures here in this life, but Yeshua is talking about treasures in eternity, treasures in the Shamayim. I don't think you and I can define what that means. I don't think we can imagine what it means. But knowing how wonderful these things that I just talked about are in this life and in this experience, we can attempt at imagining what these things are like a million-fold, a billion-fold, to truly be one, echad, as I talked about in my previous video, with Elohim is a treasure beyond description. Now, the first occurrence of the word treasure, and I've said this in other videos, an interesting study to do when you're concerned about a particular word. is to look at the first occurrence in the scriptures where that word comes up. It's just part of the magnificence of Abba's word that the first occurrence of any word always gives some very special revelation about it. And the first occurrence of the word treasures appears in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 34. Actually, I'm going to start reading with verse 30. And it reminds me of recent wars with Israel. 1948, when the Jews returned to their homeland. And again in 1967, the Six-Day War. Unbelievable miracles in our present time, 1967, 1948, where you see Yahweh operating like he did in the Old Testament. Wild things. In both of these wars, Israel was so outnumbered. It's amazing that people don't talk about this and marvel about this when they talk about wars. I mean, it's like 10 people going up against 5,000 and defeating the 5,000. It's unbelievable. Deuteronomy, that's Devarim, chapter 32, starting with verse 30, he says, "How would one chase 1,000? And how would two put 10,000 to flight unless their rock, Yeshua, had sold them and Yahweh had given them up? For their rock is not like our rock. Their rock, small r, is not like our rock, capital R. Even our enemies are judges. Their vine is of the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Amorah. Their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of serpents and the fierce venom of cobras." Here's where we see treasures for the first time. "Is it not stored up with me," Elohim speaking, "sealed up among my treasures," Elohim speaking? Is it not stored up with me, sealed up among my treasures? Again, he's talking about treasures. He's talking about Israel, where, as we see in verse 30, 1 chases 1,000, 2 puts 10,000 to flight. Why? Because of Elohim's treasures that he has stored up for those who love him. These are the treasures, being yoked to Abba Father, being taught by him, knowing that you're on his path, not your own, and therefore experiencing righteousness in your soul, your living experience, and having Elohim as your headship. Your thoughts are on him, not on the enemy. And then you see these wonderful treasures. Micha, that's Micah, chapter 6, verse 10. "Are there still treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and the short measure that is an abomination?" We see that there are treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked. Treasures of wickedness? Again, we look at Aleph, Sad, Resh, but in this case, Aleph, they're yoked to Hashatan, Satan. They're on the broad path, Sad, of the path of destruction. And Resh, their headship is Hashatan, Satan, and their thoughts are on darkness. So there are treasures of wickedness as well. Colossians, Colossim, chapter 2, verse 1. For I want you to know what a great struggle I have for you and those in Laodicea, and for as many as have not seen my face in the flesh, in order that their hearts might be encouraged, being knit together in love, and to all riches of the entire confirmation of understanding, to a true knowledge of the secret of Elohim, even the Father, and HaMashiach, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. See, when the word talks about treasures, it's talking about spiritual treasures. Now let's turn to the word perfect. Yeshua says, if you want to be perfect, we have to understand again, with our Western mindset, the idea of something that's perfect is it's not what Elohim is speaking of when you see him talking about perfection in the Word. It's not something that's just has absolutely no flaws. It's perfect. It doesn't, I don't know, we can go on and on with these ideas. Well, to keep it simple, let's just look at what the Otiot say about this word we see in English as perfect. The Aramaic Hebrew word is tamim, Strong's exhaustive number H8549. The Greek word is teleos, and that's G5046. They both mean, the dictionaries will tell you that they both mean something that's finished and wanting nothing. Pretty good, Tamim. Tau, mem, yod, mem. Tau, picture of crossed sticks, represents a monument, a sign, a signature. Mem, it's a picture of water. Has to do with the blood of Yeshua. It has to do with the Word. We are washed by the Word, water. It also has to do with mightiness, as in the size of the sea. Then we have Yod, picture of an arm and a hand, which has to do with our work and our actions. And finally, Mem, once again. Yod being sandwiched between Mem on either side is a strong statement about our work and our actions reflecting our being washed by the Word, saved by the blood of Yeshua, the Lamb of Yahweh, and having a great mightiness that would be comparable to the size of the sea. That's, mem, yod, mem. We go to the first ot, tau. We are monuments when the Father chooses us as a gift for His Son. We are a sign of what the Father is doing in all of creation. And signature, we have His signature on us. But when Yeshua says, if you want to be perfect, if you want to be that kind of monument in history, if you want to be that kind of a sign in the earth, in the world, throughout history, those who have Yahweh's signature on them. If you want to have your actions and your work and the things that you do reflecting the fact that the Word is alive in you, that the mightiness and the righteousness of Yeshua is at work in you, then he says, sell everything you have, give to the poor. In other words, let go of your focus on the things of the world and turn your focus towards the things of eternity. The first occurrence of the word perfect in the Word comes or is found in Genesis, that's Bereshith, chapter 6, verse 9, where it says, this is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generations. It sounds like, Noah was perfect and therefore, he was saved from the flood. But really, when you really dig in on that verse, what it is talking about in the original Aramaic Hebrew is the fact that Noah's bloodline was clean, had no stains in it, no involvement with the Nephilim. The Nephilim were mating with women, the giants in the land. The Nephilim, Satan was trying to create his own race, and it was running rampant. And this is one of the prime reasons that Yahweh flooded the earth and destroyed everyone on it, except for Noah and his wife and a couple of sons and daughters. But when it says that Noah was perfect in his generations, perfect, we see that he had Yahweh's signature and sign on him, Tau, and that his work and his actions reflected that him being washed by the Word, and that he had righteousness in him because of that. And most of all, in this particular verse, it's saying that his blood was clean of the Nephilim DNA, primarily. That's an important thing for you to understand about that verse. So the first occurrence of perfect, pointing at a bloodline that is clean of the Nephilim, clean of the bad seed. That gives a very strong point about what it means to be perfect, really to be of the good seed, not of the bad seed. Talked about this in, I don't know if it was my last video or the one before. I'll be putting some links at the end of this video. When you see this video come to a close, stay tuned. You'll see some links that will point at these things. So when you're done watching this, you can watch some other relative videos that have similar information that help you understand more. Next, we see Genesis chapter 17, verse 1. And it came to be when Avram, that's Abraham, was 99 years old, that Yahweh appeared to Avram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect. That doesn't mean magic's going to happen. He's going to walk before Yahweh and boom, he's perfect. No, walk before me and receive my signature on you. Be a sign to others of someone who is yoked and taught by the Father. Someone who has been washed by the Word and has the mightiness of Yeshua's righteousness in him. Someone Yod whose work and actions reflect that. And then Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 4. The rock! Exclamation point. His work is perfect, for all his ways are right ruling, an ale of truth, and without unrighteousness. Righteous and straight is he. Perfection. Being righteous and straight on the tzad, on the narrow path. So, there's our study in the Otiot for this week, my friends. As always, I hope and I pray that this video, this study, is a berekah to you and to yours. Stay tuned. Take a look at the links that are coming up. And until next week, Shalom, my friends.
The seeds of truth we must sow.